Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about accepting our disabilities and invisible illnesses. I want to discuss what it looks like to accept these conditions, what it says about us when we accept these conditions, what are some of the obstacles of accepting, and I really wanted to talk about where my mind has been going. I know I've talked about it before, but it seems like I enter new phases in this journey of acceptance. And so I wanted to talk about why it can be so difficult to accept a disability and what are some of the underlying thoughts that I have about it, and how I fear what it may appear like to others if I accept my disability. So this is interesting. It's something I talked about with my psychiatrist today. And so I thought, of course, I'm not unique. So if I'm thinking about it, somebody else must be too. So I thought I'd share. So I wanted to start with the question that, because I wonder if others like me think about or are either afraid to articulate or don't know how, what would I look like to others if I accept my disability? I know that's a strange question, but I'll see if I can try to expand on that. Um, it's a question that's rooted in fear and vulnerability. I worry that my condition might be perceived like accepting my condition as it is invisible might be perceived as me giving up on finding a full-time job or a sign of weakness or laziness. In reality, I know that, like, intellectually, I know that acceptance is courageous and it's an act of self-love, and I'm empowering myself to be happy in this version, Rachel version 3.0. But when I think about this idea from the perspective of somebody on the outside looking in, I think, what will other people think? Like, I'm going through, it's been 3 years since I had my stroke. It's going on 3 years, and in 1 week, it'll be 3 years, less than a week. And I know that's a long time to be dealing with all of this, but what is long enough, right? How long am I supposed to go to therapy? How long am I supposed to put myself through pain in order to try to get better? Some people would say you never give up, right? And I understand that. But I also feel like, what if I'm fighting an uphill battle that I can never win? What if I can't get better? What if things are never going to change? Because sometimes it feels like it. Some days my discomfort and my pain are right back to where I started. And now I have more better days, so I think that that is a success. But how long does one do this? I don't have the answer for that. This is just thoughts that I think of, and I think it's important to talk about it. So, what will somebody think if I accept my disability as it is, will they think that I accepted it too soon? That I'm supposed to be pushing back for my entire life, spending my whole life going to therapy, spending my whole life trying to do these, you know, vision exercises and stuff like that. I don't know. Is it okay at some point to say, okay, that's it? Like, this is how it's gonna be. I need to get comfortable where I am and just start living. Are people gonna think that I'm lazy? That I'm like, no, I just can't do this anymore. You know, like I'm giving up on myself. So it's a weird place to be in my head where, and I've been in this place for quite a while now, for 11 months. And when we accept our disabilities, it says something about us. But I'm not quite sure right now what it says, though, because for a while now I've been thinking, yeah, I need to accept that I'm never going to be able to go back to my job. I'm never going to be in that same position. I'm never going to be in the position where I'm reaching to be a VP. I need to accept that. That's where I've been in my head. So I was thinking though today, what if I am? What if all of a sudden everything fixes itself? Because the weird things have happened, right? What if all of a sudden everything's fine? Would my old company take me back again? You know, like I think, well, I've definitely proven that I'm a hard worker, so maybe they would take me back and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm being realistic. That's what my brain has been thinking. And I mean, I know that acceptance shows that I acknowledge my reality of where I'm at and that I'm ready to navigate my life with honesty and strength in this new version of myself, my new version of my body and my mind. And acceptance, intellectually, I know, acceptance does not mean resignation, but it feels like it a little bit. Um, Acceptance means recognizing our current situation and finding ways to live fully in it. And what I was talking to my psychiatrist about today was, and I'll get a little bit more into this, but do I accept that I'm going to be disabled and accept the possibility that all of a sudden everything could fix itself? Like I can accept either one of those. That's what I said to her. So my psychiatrist is helping me. She made me recognize this today, is helping me to accept the journey, not the destination, not one of these two destinations. And I'll go into that a little more. But people like me with invisible disabilities or invisible illnesses have underlying concerns that we rarely talk about. I didn't know this until I started talking about it. Until I, the other day, I guess last week, I posted a episode on Instagram, the one that was about which one was it? It was, oh, disability. My disability is not my fault. And that was the highest liked episode on Instagram that I've had in quite some time. And I thought that that was interesting. So I ended up expanding on that in a blog because I thought, okay, this must be interesting to people. So I expanded on it a little bit and put it in some different formats. And it's because I think folks like me think these things, but we don't really talk about it. And what gave me, I think, the willingness to talk about it was that that book that I read that I always talk about from Deborah Meyerson. So why is it that we don't talk about some of this stuff? For many, I think it's because of the stigma and the misunderstanding around these invisible conditions. There is this sort of societal pressure to appear normal. And in parallel with that, people who are having these invisible conditions have to downplay how they really feel in order to not just appear normal, but act normal. And I'm guilty over the years of looking at somebody who appears normal and talks as if something's really wrong with them. I mean, that's terrible, but I admit it. I did it because I was ignorant to the types of conditions, the chronic pain that people can live in, and there's nothing that you can do about it, you know? I don't think I deserve to be living it. I'm not saying that, but I feel bad about it. I feel bad that I was one of those people. Um, what if we appear normal, but we aren't normal? What if we are really, really sick or really, really in pain, but we appear normal? There's a lady that I have befriended throughout the past year who lives with chronic pain, and she has Lyme's disease, and as a result of that, has lots and lots of different diseases and issues that are just incapacitating. Yet she looks totally normal. And I also ran across an Instagram post yesterday of a young woman. She looked like she was in her 20s or something. And the post was about, I couldn't keep up with it because it was a lot of movement and a lot of different words and stuff. But what I got from it was she was talking about people who have invisible illnesses and how other people just are like, but you look okay, you know, and just dismissing how you feel because you look normal. There's this feeling that since I look normal, I need to just act like I'm normal and act like I'm okay and just blow it off. Like I said, downplay my struggles. And there's also this feeling that I look normal, but I feel terrible. So I need to make sure you know that I feel terrible. That even though I look normal, like, please treat me gently. You know, that's kind of what please treat me like a porcelain doll because I feel like one on the inside. All of this internal battle that I have, I see how it can lead to, and it does lead to these feelings of isolation and fear of judgment. And we might think that by not excuse me, by not talking about our condition, we somehow can just escape the judgments, and just ignore it. But it really, by not talking about it at all and ignoring it, it really seems to deepen this sense of loneliness and disconnect. So if I don't interact with people in person, I don't have to deal with it. I can just ignore the fact that I'm not normal, you know? And that's obviously that's not healthy. And these are real things that I've been dealing with. Um, I've been working on accepting my disability, and I'm also trying to consider that things could just all of a sudden go back to normal again. I don't know why I think that, but because I don't think in reality, I don't think that's going to happen, but weirder things have happened. So I'm like, what if it just goes away? I think because when you hear of vertigo, there are people who get vertigo. I don't have vertigo. Mine's a little different than that, but people have vertigo and then their things in their crystals in their ears go back to normal and all of a sudden they're normal again. Well, I don't have vertigo, so it doesn't have to do with the crystals in my ears or anything like that. Mine is something else. But just the fact that something like that can just literally turn your world upside down and make it spin can be debilitating for a couple weeks and then it can just go back to normal all of a sudden makes me think maybe it's possible that mine could just all of a sudden go back to normal and I could just go back to life the way it was. So I was talking to my psychiatrist about this, about accepting my disability versus accepting everything going back to normal. Like I felt like trying to think about accepting both ends of the spectrum was me preparing for any outcome. That's what I felt like I was doing. Like whatever happens, I'm gonna accept it. That's what I felt like I was doing by imagining these both of these scenarios. But what she reminded me was that I need to be careful about future tripping and accepting the outcome this way or the outcome this way, and instead focus on today. I should know that. Focus on accepting today. Be present, um, and not getting lost in the endless possibilities of the future because I wasn't thinking of it as endless possibilities. I was thinking of it as I either accept that I'm disabled for the rest of my life or everything goes back to normal. That's all I could see, that there's two possibilities. And this brought up an important point to me, which is there are not just two potential outcomes, that things go back to normal or they don't. There are millions of potential outcomes. The suggestion, like as soon as she said that to me, there are millions of potential outcomes. I got excited again. Just like that, I felt hopeful again. Instead of being bogged down in this binary thinking, I don't know if that's the right word, but thinking of just one option or the other, either I'm completely healed or I'm not. I can open myself up to the myriad of possibilities that life presents. And this perspective shift was incredibly liberating for me. Like it makes me exactly the same as everybody else. It makes me not different from anyone when I think about that, right? We all have millions of potential outcomes, and we all need to accept today. So it was cool, and it may be obvious to anybody else, but today it wasn't obvious to me. I tend to gravitate towards stressful thoughts, as I'm sure many of you do, until I talk through them with either my doctors, my friends, my family, my team, Rachel. And this support network that I have to talk through these thoughts of mine is invaluable. They help me see things from different angles and remind me of what is really what life may look like from a different perspective, what my life may look like from somebody else's perspective. That I can have bad days. I can have bad days of thinking and good days of thinking, just like I can have physical bad days and physical good days. I can have days of uncertainty. And sometimes it's almost like I'm happy my psychiatrist meets with me once a week, because it's like she pulls me back in, like, so that I'm on the balance beam. And then as the week goes on and I get closer and closer to my next appointment, I keep like falling off of the balance beam a little bit. And she kind of fixes me straight on it again. And that support is an important part of managing my self-talk. So how do we work on accepting today? Like, how do I stay there until my next appointment? How do I stay on the balance beam? I can focus on what I can do today. So we, as people with invisible illnesses, can focus on what we can do today in the current state of our disability. That's all that we're guaranteed ever in life, whether you have a disability or not, is today. All we have is today. So all I need to accept is today. And I forget that. I always want to try to figure something out. It's the problem solver in me. I was a math major. I feel like I love solving problems. And I'm always searching for a problem to solve. But sharing my fear and concerns when I discover a problem, um, when I share that with friends and family and professionals on Team Rachel, um, I get a relief and a new perspective, so that maybe these problems I'm discovering don't actually need to be solved. I'm creating the problem instead of like discovering a problem. I'm building a problem. And acceptance has been a long process for me. It's like I keep trying to find something wrong with it. Um, for those of you who are in like the technology industry, we have new products that come out, and we can have a whole testing team who goes in and just tries to break it, put as many people on the system at one time, try to overload the system, try to click everything the wrong way, the way that it was not built to be used, and try to break it. And that's what I'm doing with acceptance. I'm trying to break it to make sure that it's strong. It's like in my sobriety, it's funny, this talk is really showing me a lot of stuff. I'm having some epiphanies right now. But my sobriety, as I worked the steps and stuff, I kept trying to find a loophole. I kept trying to find a way to drink, but it wouldn't change my sobriety date. Like, what is the loophole? And I couldn't find one until I had my colonoscopy. It still cracks me up, but my colonoscopy was the only loophole in my sobriety. And that is that there was no way I could have my colonoscopy without getting put under. And I can't get put under without feeling a hot second of feeling high. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm an alcoholic, so it's normal for me. And that was my loophole for sobriety. I got a hot second. And right before I got put under, I actually said out loud when the doctor put the stuff in me, I said, there it is, right before I was out. I said it out loud because it felt good. And anyway, I know that's terrible, but just being honest, that's what we do here. So this acceptance is the same thing. I'm trying to break it. I'm trying to find a way. If I'm going to accept this, I have to accept it no matter how it's molded. If it's a piece of clay, if my disability is a piece of clay, I need to squeeze it, misshape it, poke holes in it, because no matter what it looks like on any given day, I have to accept it. And I think that is the troubleshooting type thing that my brain is doing right now. I'm trying to find a problem in accepting my disability, and I keep finding them. And that's where my psychiatrist and my doctors and my friends and my family come in. They help me to solidify that acceptance. So I would say we have to allow ourselves to feel these emotions and these concerns and these questions about accepting our disabilities. And most importantly of all, talk about them out loud. That's the hardest part. Say it out loud. It feels icky. Like when I was trying to explain it to my psychiatrist today, it felt icky to tell her what I was really thinking about accepting my disability. I said something like, I feel like if I accept my disability as it is, that people are going to think, and that was all I had to say to feel icky, because it means that I'm worried about what other people think when I am disabled. But that's me. That's what I'm thinking. And so I need to be able to talk about how I'm feeling. And if I'm afraid of what other people are going to think, I shouldn't be ashamed of that. I need to talk about it without self-judgment and without fear of being judged. So, another thing that I can do is continue to educate and share about my condition with those around me so that I can build this mutual understanding and support that both sides of a relationship need. So acceptance is living fully today and not fast forwarding to the outcome. Because by focusing on today, on the present, I can reduce the anxiety that comes from future tripping. And it allows me to welcome the infinite possibilities that life offers everyone. And that idea in itself makes me feel like everyone else. That alone makes me feel normal, you know? So, thanks so much for tuning in and listening to this pretty uh authentic and raw conversation, because it is stuff that's uncomfortable to talk about for me, but it's so important to talk about because I know I'm not the only one thinking it. So if you think that there's somebody else around you that deals with an invisible illness, whether it's mental health, eating disorders, alcoholism, addiction, some sort of vision impairment or Lyme's disease, any of these things, there's so many of them that people are suffering quietly with. So share it. Share, please pass it along. And I would love to hear from them if they want to reach out and talk further. So don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow me on social media. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm all over the place. So thank you for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.